You used to pay taxes to use public services. Now you're paying convenience fees, and nobody voted on that. Here's what's happening across the country right now. You renew your car registration online, $3 fee. You pay a parking ticket through the city's own website, processing charge. You want to use a credit card at the DMV? That'll be extra. These aren't taxes. They're not on any ballot, but you're paying them to access the same government services your taxes are supposed to cover. And if you're already stretched thin between rent and groceries, these small fees add up fast because they hit every single transaction. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how this shift happened, why it's costing you more than you think, and what it actually means for your monthly budget when public services start acting like private businesses. With everything from gas to eggs costing more than it did 2 years ago, even a $2 or $3 fee per transaction starts to matter, especially when you're hit with 5 of them in a month just trying to handle basic obligations. Let me walk you through what this looks like in real life. You get a traffic ticket, $40. You go to pay it on the county website, their official site, and there's a $4 convenience fee to pay online. If you want to avoid the fee, you can mail a check or drive to the courthouse during business hours, but you work during business hours, so you pay the fee. That's not an accident, it's a design. Over the last 15 years, state and local governments have quietly outsourced payment processing to third-party vendors. These companies charge you a fee every time you interact with a public service online. The government gets a cut, the vendor gets a cut, and you get charged for the privilege of paying what you already owe. It's happening with court fees, DMV transactions, utility bills, parking tickets, even public park reservations in some states, and it's spreading. Here's the part most people miss. After the 2008 financial crisis, a lot of cities and states were broke. Tax revenues dropped, budgets got slashed, but people still needed services, and politicians didn't want to raise taxes because that's unpopular. So instead, they brought in vendors to modernize payments. These companies offered to build the online systems for free or cheap in exchange for being allowed to charge convenience fees directly to users. On paper, it sounds reasonable. The government saves money, you get to pay online, everybody wins. But here's what actually happened. These fees became a backdoor funding mechanism. They generate revenue without requiring a vote, without public hearings, without any of the accountability that comes with raising taxes. And because they're labeled as optional, you could mail a check, technically, they don't get the same scrutiny. Let's do the math on a normal year. Say you renew your car registration online. That's a $3 fee. You pay 2 parking tickets, $8 in fees. You pay your water bill online every month because your city charges a late fee if you're even a day behind. That's another $2 a month, so $24 for the year. You're at $35 so far, and we haven't even touched things like paying property taxes online, court fees, or toll violations. If you're someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, $35 is gas for the week. It's groceries. It's the difference between making rent on time and getting hit with a late fee that costs even more. And that's the trap. These fees are designed to be small enough that you don't fight them, but frequent enough that they add up to real money over time. But here's what concerns me more than the dollar amounts. This isn't just about fees. It's about a fundamental change in how public services work. When you pay taxes, you're funding a system that's supposed to serve everyone equally. Rich or poor, you all get the same access to the DMV, the same roads, the same court system. But when you layer fees on top of that access, you're creating tiers. People who can afford the fees get convenience. People who can't have to take time off work, sit in line, mail checks, and jump through hoops. It's a quiet way of making public services feel more like private transactions. And once that door is open, it doesn't close. I'm not saying every convenience fee is evil or that online payment systems are bad. They're not. The problem is when governments use these fees as a replacement for proper funding, and when there's no transparency about where that money actually goes. In some states, a chunk of these fees goes straight to the vendor. In others, the government keeps part of it to plug budget gaps. But as a user, you have no way of knowing. There's no line item, no receipt that breaks it down. You just pay it. I'm not going to pretend you have a lot of power here. You don't. If the city says there's a fee to pay online, you're paying it or you're driving downtown. But you can stay aware of how often you're getting hit with these charges. Check your bank statements. Add them up. A lot of people don't realize they're paying $40, $50, even $70 a year in convenience fees until they actually track it. If your city or state has public comment periods for budget meetings, that's where this stuff gets decided. Most people don't show up. If even a handful of residents start asking questions about vendor contracts and fee structures, it gets uncomfortable for the people in charge. Not because they'll necessarily change it, but because they hate explaining it. And if you have the option to pay by check or in person without a fee, and it doesn't cost you more in time or gas, consider doing it. Not out of principle, out of math. Here's the reality. Convenience fees aren't going away. If anything, they're going to keep expanding as more services move online and cities look for revenue that doesn't show up as a tax hike. You're not imagining it. Public services are starting to feel more like apps with microtransactions. Pay to skip the line, pay to use a card, pay for the convenience of not having to take half a day off work. And the hard part is, most of this is legal. It's been voted on by city councils and state legislators, just not by you. So the question isn't whether this is fair, it's whether you're going to keep paying these fees blindly, or whether you're going to start treating them like what they are, a hidden cost that you need to account for, just like rent or insurance. You can't opt out of a system that's built into everything you're required to do, but you can at least see it clearly. If this made you think twice about that small processing fee, share it with someone who's tired of getting nickel and dimed by their own city. And if you want more breakdowns on costs that hide in plain sight, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.